proud that this tall young man had chosen to work with him rather than go off to college like the other seniors. Mind you, despite his height, Manfred had a skinny frame, sallow, blotchy skin, and a face that was all bones and hollows. At this moment, his face twisted into a grimace of concentration as he shuffled a pile of bones across the table in front of him. Above him hung 7 gas jets set into an iron wheel, their bluish flames emitting a faint purr. When he saw his great-grandfather, Manfred gave a sigh of irritation and exclaimed, "It's beyond me. I hate puzzles."
"It's not a puzzle," snapped Ezekiel. "Those are the bones of Hammeran, a war horse of exceptional strength and courage."
"So what? How are a few measly bones going to bring your ancestor back to life?" Manfred directed a disdainful glance at Ezekiel, who instantly lowered his gaze. He didn't want to be hypnotized by his own great-grandson. Keeping his eyes fixed on the bones, the old man brought his wheelchair closer to the table. Ezekiel Bloor was 101 years old. But other men of that age could look considerably better preserved. Ezekiel's face was little more than a skull. His remaining teeth were cracked and blackened, and a few thin strands of white hair hung from beneath a black velvet cap. But his eyes were still full of life, black and glittering. They darted about with a savage intensity.
"We have enough,"
said the old man, indicating the other objects on the table, a suit of chainmail, a helmet, a black fur cape, and a gold cloak pin.
"They're Borlaths. My grandfather found them in the castle, wrapped in leather inside the tomb. The skeleton was gone."
He stroked the black fur almost fondly. Borlath had been Ezekiel's hero ever since he was a boy. Stories of his warlike ancestor had fired his imagination until he came to believe that Borlath could solve all his problems. Lately, he had dreamed that Borlath would sweep him out of his wheelchair, and together they would terrorize the city. Then Charlie Bone and his detestable uncle would have to look out. What about electricity for the, moment of life? There isn't any in here. Manfred looked up at the gas jets.
"Oh, that!"
Ezekiel waved his hand dismissively. He wheeled himself to another table and picked up a small can with 2 prongs extending from the top. He turned a handle in the side of the can, and a blue spark leaped between the prongs.
"Voila! Electricity," he gleefully announced. "Now, get on with it. The children will be back tomorrow, and we don't want any of them getting in the way of our little experiment."
"Especially Charlie Bone," Manfred grunted.
"Charlie Bone!"
Ezekiel almost spit the name.
"His grandmother said he'd be a help, but he's the reverse. I thought I'd almost got him on my side last semester, but then he had to go whining on about his lost father and blaming me."
"He wasn't wrong there," Manfred muttered.
"Think what he could do with that talent of his," Ezekiel went on. "He looks into a picture and, bingo, he's there, talking to people long dead. What I wouldn't give."
Ezekiel shook his head.
"He's got the blood of that infernal Welsh magician. And the wand."
"I have plans for that," said Manfred softly. "It'll be mine soon. Just you wait."
"Indeed,"
Ezekiel chuckled. He began to propel himself around the room while his great-grandson concentrated on the delicate job of bone gluing. As Ezekiel moved into the deep shadows at the far end of the room, his thoughts turned to Billy Raven, the white-haired orphan who used to spy on Charlie Bone. Billy had become rebellious of late. He'd refused to tell Ezekiel what Charlie and his friends were up to. As a result, Ezekiel and the Bloors were in danger of losing control of all the endowed children in the school. Something would have to be done.
Parents,
Ezekiel mumbled to himself.
I'll have to get Billy adopted. I promised I'd find the orphan some parents, and I never did. He's given up on me. Well, Billy shall have his nice, kind parents.
Not too kind, said Manfred, who had overheard.
Never fear, I've got just the couple. I don't know why I didn't think of them before.
Ezekiel turned his head expectantly.
Ah, we're about to get help.
A distant patter of footsteps could be heard, and a few seconds later the door opened and 3 women walked into the room. The first was the oldest. Her iron-grey hair was piled atop her head in a giant bun. Her clothes were black, and so were her eyes. Lucretia Eubeam was the school matron and one of Charlie Bone's great-aunts.
I've brought my sisters,
she told Ezekiel.
You said you needed help. And where's the 4th? asked Ezekiel. Where's Griselda? She's best left out of things for now, said Eustacia, the second sister. After all, she's got to live with our wretched brother. And the boy. She might blab. Accidentally, of course.
Eustacia, a clairvoyant, walked over to the table. Her grey hair still held threads of black, but in most other respects she resembled her older sister. Her small black eyes darted over the objects on the table, and she gave a crooked smile. So, that's what you're up to, you old devil. Who is he? My ancestor Bolath, Ezekiel replied, greatest of all the Red King's children, most magnificent, powerful, and wise. Most vile and bloodthirsty would be more accurate, said the third sister, dumping a large leather bag on the table. Her greasy hair hung over her shoulders in sooty swaths, and dark shadows ringed her coal-black eyes. Compared to her sisters, she looked a mess. Her long coat was a size too large, and the greyish blouse beneath looked badly in need of a wash. No one would have guessed that this bedraggled creature had once been a proud and immaculately groomed woman. Venetia's been waiting for something like this, said Eustacia. Ever since that hateful Charlie Bone burned her house down. I thought your brother did that, Manfred chimed in. So he did, snarled Venetia. But Charlie was responsible. The little worm. I want him snuffed out. I want him trembling with fear, tortured, tormented, dead. Calm down, Venetia. Ezekiel spun quickly to her side. We don't want to lose the boy entirely. Why? What use is he? Can you imagine what it's like to lose everything? To see your possessions, the work of a lifetime, go up in smoke? Ezekiel whacked the table with his cane. Don't be so pathetic, woman. Charlie can be used. I can force him to carry me into the past. I could change history. Think of that. You can't change history, great-grandfather, Manfred said flatly. How do you know? Barked Ezekiel. No one's tried. An awkward silence followed. No one dared suggest that it had probably been tried several times, without success. Venetia chewed her lip, still thinking of revenge. She could wait, but one day she would find a way to finish off Charlie Bone. Permanently. Because I've got the bones, snapped Ezekiel. This horse, Hammeran, he nodded at its remains, was a magnificent creature, by all accounts, and a man mounted on a horse can be very threatening. Don't you agree? The others agreed. The boy will be terrified. Ezekiel went on gleefully. He'll do anything we ask.